We're snapping, we're tackling, we're podding. I don't know the gesture of podding. That's what we're doing here, guys. Snap, tackle, pod. We're back for week 3 of the high school football season in and around Kansas City. That's Dion, Clisso, PrepsKC. I'm Mick Shaffer of KSHB 41. You know the drill. We're talking high school football on the Kansas side, on the Missouri side. Usually Dion has a hat on. I've got mine. This is a Tiger King hat, by the way. This is Seth Wadley. It's what Tiger King wore. Joe Exotic wore throughout almost the entire documentary. This hat, my brother got it for me for birthday one year. It was a great gift.
Well, so Friday, I go out to get the mail. It's game day, very busy. Go out to get the mail. As I open the door, there's a box on my patio, on my front door there. I go and get it, and I open it up, and inside is this, a Baser Linwood football hat. Thank you to Coach Stahlbaumer. And I'll probably wear that this week. And this is, I mean, I don't say green and gold are necessarily my colors, but this is actually a really nice hat. And
nice hat, Under Armour. I like that.
Yes, and as Coach Stahlbaumer said in the note that he put in the box, this is the best logo in the state of Kansas. So I will leave that. That's according to him. I'm not endorsing that by any means, but no, this is the newest hat, and I've already worn it out a few times here in Blue Springs, and no one has asked me yet what it is, but it says on the back, it says Baser Linwood football. So if you catch me going away from you, you'll know that it's Baser Linwood football. So no, thank you very much for that. So we have a new hat collection, and you picked up a new t-shirt over the weekend.
I did. Pearl Jam. Went to Pearl Jam in Minnesota. I picked up 3 new t-shirts, actually. This is just one of them. They're only $40 a piece. It's like they're giving them away. And a hat, a poster, and all that stuff.
Charlie Hustle's more than that.
Huh?
Charlie Hustle's are more than that.
That's true. So no, it was I'd never been there before, so I decided to spend more money than I should have there. But it was great. It was a religious experience for my favorite band of all time.
I saw them way back in '99. So they've put a few more albums out since then. But
they're like 60 now, by the way, Dion. But they look older, but they sound the same. It's the same voices.
Yeah,
they're probably instrumentally better than they were in the 1990s.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I saw U2 5 years ago, and it's the same thing. And they're older and a little grayer, but sounded great. And the musicianship is fantastic because when you play with the same guys over and over, and you don't really change much, because Pearl Jam really hasn't changed the lineup. They've changed the drummers out a few times, but other than that,
and they've been pretty standard. You're right. The drummer's the newest guy, Matt Cameron, but he's been there since like 1998. I mean,
I was going to say the first few years they changed out.
The other 4 have been there since early 90s, and the main 3 without Eddie were there since the 1980s with Mother Love Bone, and then the lead singer Andrew Wood died, and that's of course when Eddie Vedder took over. And we were talking about that, how they've you go to a lot of bands, especially ones from the 80s and 90s, their Wikipedia page, and it'll list like 5 current members, right, and then like 20 former members, right? Now it's been these guys for the better part of a quarter of a century here, and they're still going strong.
Did you know that the song "Hunger Strike" from Temple the Dog is the first time Eddie Vedder's voice was ever recorded?
Yes. See, a lot of people, and I was mistaken. A lot of people thought Temple the Dog came out after 10 or maybe after verse. No, it was before 10 was released, and supposedly Eddie was so shy. He was very shy at that time about his voice being recorded. In concerts, he would the first few songs, he would turn away from the crowd and sing the first few songs till he kind of got the courage to turn towards them and finish the set. But yeah, and I guess it was it was like pulling teeth to get into the studio to record. At that time, kind of everybody was playing for everybody else's band. Like guys were in Soundgarden. Yeah. I think Cameron was maybe the drummer for Soundgarden at the time. Guys were in Pearl Jam, and so they're kind of one conglomerate. But there's
I can tell you this: in 1992 at the University of Missouri, that fall, you couldn't walk through a dorm without hearing Pearl Jam.
No, I know.
That's all it was, and that's definitely.
It's like Swifties. We were like Swifties there, but just in our 40s, 45-year-old dudes.
Yes,
it's funny. I guarantee you right now, all the coaches listening and watching this podcast are turning up the volume, bated breath. And all the kids are like, okay, let's go. Let's get to the football.
Well, we know Joel Appleby is, because he's a huge Pearl Jam fan, and
he plays he plays several Pearl Jam songs during practice. It's the same kind of loop. My kids have told me, And I think it's either Even Flow or Alive. My son says, whenever I hear that song, I know practice is about over. There's only a couple more songs after Even Flow or Alive. So yeah, no, it was great. It was awesome. All right, so let's get to it, Dion. You got your hat on,
Yes,
got my shirt on. We're ready to go. Let's look back at week 2 of the football season, week 1 for Kansas. Well, start in Missouri. Hey, is Rockhurst the best team in the city?
I don't know. They look pretty dominant. You know, I had to watch a lot of that game against Blue Springs South, a young Blue Springs South team that starts 8 sophomores and a freshman offensive lineman, 6'3", 260. Don't know how I missed him rolling around my kid's school last year. I thought he would have stuck out, but maybe wasn't around when he was around the few times I was there at the building. But no, Rock looked pretty good. They're pretty physical. They can run the ball. They've got, you know, I don't know if they have those explosive players, you know, to make you miss and go for 60, but they're going to 7, 8, 9, 10 yard you to death. And defensively, they're pretty good. They turned over Blue Springs South a couple times with interceptions, and Micah Oder had a big game defensively for them. He had an interception in that game. And if that name sounds familiar, yes, it's Greg Oder's son. As Kevin White said many a time during the broadcast on Spectrum, he was once a ball boy at Blue Springs South, so he was very familiar with that field and that stadium. So there was a very good comfort level for Micah Oder as he played a game there. But Rock looked really good. You know, I think that they've got Liberty North this week, so that'll be a good test for both those teams. Liberty North played really well against Liberty, and you know, they bounced back from the loss to Lee Summit North. Lee Summit North, it looked pretty close. I think Park Hill South is a pretty good team. And somebody was like, "Oh, is that a, well, there's good teams. I mean, at least some North's got good teams on their schedule, so they're not just going to roll out and just pound people." And I think Coach Ponce up there at Park Hill South's done a good job with that team. That's a team to keep an eye on. So those are kind of the big dogs right there. And Lee Summit West is now 2-0. They beat Blue Springs. Ray Peck bounced back out a win over Park Hill. So it's kind of still. I think that those three, Lee Summit North, Liberty North, and Rock, are the teams to keep an eye on. And I think that. I think we'll find out a lot more about Rock this week, but they've been pretty dominant. And they're big and they're physical. Ethan Hansen, their quarterback, can run it and throw it. He's a good dual threat guy. So you don't want to get down to them because their defense is very good.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I mean, they run the ball and they play defense, and that prescription has worked since day one, right, in football. And Kelly, who's on your site on PrepsKC.com, the quote of the night, I believe he was talking about the teams like this. This is the first team I've had that looks like the old Rockhurst teams of the past. I mean, their offensive line looks like they're college kids. I mean, they look like they're a JUCO at least. And then I like the quarterback, love the running back, and then like I said, they've given up 10 points in 2 games.
Yeah, and and Blue Springs South had a couple of nice drives there. Turnovers got them down, and just an inability to stop them, and that just shows how young they are. But no, they look, like you said, they look like a Rockhurst team. For all of the talk, and I don't expect everyone to kind of have a sense of, if you don't know Kelly Donahoe very well, of him being he is a very good offensive coach, one of the best we've seen in the Metro. For a guy who's a quarterback, back in the day, you used to think that he'd like to sling it around like that. Really, what he likes to do is put a fullback out there, put in the I formation, and run the ball. And I think that's his bread and butter. He really likes to be physical and do that. And then when they're able to do that, they do a lot of stuff off of that with the passing game. So yeah, I think the big thing for them is the defense. We'll see this week against Liberty North. It's got a lot more weapons. Now they're starting a sophomore quarterback as well. So he had a pick in the first game against Lee Summit North, played a little bit better, but that's the thing. If you get down to Rockhurst, you're gonna have a hard time climbing back in, because that defense is fantastic, and the guy calling it's been doing it for a long time. Last year, this Liberty North Rockhurst game was 10-7, and because the other guy on the other side of the field was Andy Learman, who's a really good defensive coordinator as well. So you got 2 of the best defensive coordinators in the Metro going at it this week.
All right, so a couple teams that made runs at big boys last week, and this kind of segues off the Rockhurst question. You have Park Hill South, getting within 15 points of Lee Summit North, and you have Blue Valley West losing in a shootout to St. Thomas Aquinas 49-42. Which of those 2 teams is legit, you think, out of Blue Valley West and Park Hill South?
Can I say both? I think Park Hill South's going to. I think Park Hill South is going to be a tough team for anybody on their schedule, and I think Blue Valley West. That's a team that I felt like was going to be pretty solid. And then when they were going score for score, basically is what they did all night long, and then Aquinas scored last. I think the Blue Valley West is a team that is going to be tough to handle because they're kind of big and they're physical. They like to run the ball. They do things that other teams. A lot of the EKL teams are wide open, throw the ball up and down the field, whereas Blue Valley West is more physical and tough and does that kind of stuff. So I think they're a team that is definitely keep an eye out. But it's EKL. They could finish fourth and be in the state semis in 6.
Yeah.
It's that's the way it is. That's it. It just could be that when you could have 4 teams from the EKL in state semis very easily. Half the league could play for the chance to go to the state championship game. So and then there's
they got teams in 6A, 5A, and 4A.
Yeah. Heck, they could have 5 really. They could double up in both 6A and 4A and Blue Valley Southwest in 5A, which kind of segues into the next thing that we talk about is Blue Valley Southwest beating Blue Valley. And
yeah, I was gonna say, is that the best win in Blue Valley Southwest history? They might argue that their biggest was last year in the quarterfinals, hammering DeSoto, getting the state semifinals. That was a bigger win, right? Because that accomplished you something. But it's the first time they've ever beaten Blue Valley.
First time they beaten Blue Valley,
right? They got close last year. They got it done this year. Would they call that their best win?
I'd say regular season. A few years ago, remember they beat Aquinas in the early round.
Oh, they like that one too. You're right.
Yeah, that one's a good one too. But I think just complete game the way they played against the Blue Valley team that they, had them looked like they had them down last year 21-0 and lose 28-21. This year they were tied at 13, and then they just blew them out of the water second half. And I think that says a lot about their ability to finish games that I think that they learned last year at the end of the year on that run to the semis. And that's one of those things. It may be the toughest thing to get over the hump with a team that hasn't had success, hasn't had a lot of success. When you get to the point where you're good enough, turn that corner and finishing those games is sometimes the hardest thing to do, because once you do it a couple times, it becomes much easier and you learn how to do it. But finishing games is huge. And to finish that game the way they did after the way they didn't finish it a year before, 2 separate teams, 2 different teams all the way around. But still, it's a for the program, I think it's a big step forward.
Yeah, and look, they got the quarterback back. Dunn's back for a 3rd straight year, so there is some continuity there. It's funny. It seems like a lot of years, the Blue Valleys just trade off on which one has the most talent, right? Blue Valleys won so many titles. Blue Valley West won one 10, 15 years ago.
7.
You had Blue Valley North and Blue Valley Northwest in the last 5 years. And maybe it's now time for like multiple teams, because I look around that district and West with a good game, and Northwest is one of the favorites. You have Southwest, one of the favorites in 5A. You have maybe the best assistant coach we've had in a decade, taking over at Blue Valley North in Drew Hudgens, and he's going to have that thing up and running. Yeah. Which you never count Blue Valley. It's like all 5 you can make cases for. Okay, now this team could do something this year.
Yeah, no, I think so. And their schedule's tough. They're playing everybody. So they got Miege this week. So that'll be a good test for them. And I feel like they're probably thinking, well, this is our, not necessarily our chance to get Miege, because Miege is really good, but I think they probably feel like they're in the best position they've been against Miege in a long time.
All right, let's jump back over to Missouri. East Buchanan. How many points did East Buchanan get? Class 1 East Buchanan for beating Class 4?
Well, East Buchanan's up at 2. So, but but they still get bonused.
Still, that's a 2 class jump, and you shut out a Class 4 team.
Yeah, they plus 13 and had 2 classes up, and district standings are up on our site right now, and they are definitely a team to keep an eye on. That's a statement win for them, no doubt, and it's tough. Class 2 is going to be tough. When you bring Adrian and East Buchanan up, the 2 finals from last year, and they return most of their teams, along with Lamar, who was in the finals last year, Lafayette County, who's always good. So there's a lot of good teams in that Class 2 on this side of the bracket. But East Buchanan definitely, they're size-wise like a Class 2 team. They've got like 50, 60 kids. So they've got the numbers out right now to play that Class 2. And they definitely are heading back into their league now and feeling like, hey, we're in a pretty good spot to kind of do, that was the one game they lost last year was to Savannah. So now they've kind of blocked that one off. Now they've still got to play North Platte and Mid Buchanan in their league, who are good teams, but now East Buchanan looking like they'd pick it up right where they left off last year.
Absolutely. Anything else stand out from week 1 in Kansas, week 2 in Missouri last week for you?
Well, Platte County, Bill Lutz said, "Oh, we're a year away."
I love this little round robin. Platte County and Kearney and Smithville are playing like
yes.
3 weeks.
And they give up a score and go down a point, and then they go down in 27 seconds and score and win by 7.
Wow.
I mean, that was a crazy game. And I was texting with him on Saturday, and I said, "Oh, you lied to me. You said that you guys were a year away, because they've got they start 7 sophomores on offense, I think." But he said, "Well, this is a class they like. This is his kid's class. He's a tight end. Wayne Baskerville's son Trey is a receiver. Rocco Marriott's the quarterback, is a sophomore, big, tough, physical kid. And I think that the sophomores have grown up pretty quick, and they've got a really veteran defense. So they thought they were going to rely on the defense, and now the offense is kind of ready to go." And he just said, "These kids are just they're fearless. They don't." He goes, "They're playing really well." So Platte County really, first 2 weeks of the season, has been a surprise in the sense of getting those 2 wins. I mean, that Kearney and Smithville 2 weeks in a row, and then Kearney turns around to beat Fort Osage. So that's showing you right there. Fort Osage has lost 2 games by 10 points basically. I mean, they lost by 11 points total. I mean, and they're 0-2 to teams that are ranked number 2 in their classes. Number 2, number 3 in their classes. So.
Yeah, Fort Osage losing by 4 to Grain Valley, right, and then by 7 to Kearney.
Got down by 7 and basically never. It was just stayed the way that whole game, and it was a tough defensive battle. So now Fort Osage is a team that's 0-2, and this time last year was Platte County was 0-2. Coming off in the first 2 weeks, and so we'll see what happens down the line. Fort Osage definitely righted the ship last year after losing to Kearney. They were 1-1 last year. They righted the ship and went on and wins the state championship game. I don't know if that's going to be the case for Platte County, because Platte County, Fort Osage, Grain Valley are all in the same district, so only one of them's coming out of that district.
Yeah. And then look, the team on your head, you jinxed them right last week.
I did. Yeah, I did.
A Remax Big 3 game against Tonganoxie. Tonga got that win in a big rivalry game. Yeah,
they did, and they kind of jumped on them. And Isaiah Holthouse, their outstanding receiver, had 3 catches, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. And a couple of those catches were just balls that were thrown up, and he just went and got them. Real talented receiver. But Baser Linwood played pretty well. And, it's week 1. And I think Tongi's pretty good. So that was a good test for Baser. And Baser came back on him there a little at the end and cut it down to a 2-score game. But no, a good win for Tongi over there in that game. And I think you've got 2 teams right there that will, be pretty good down the line.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. Let's look ahead to your Remax Big 3 games of the week this week, Dion. And let's start on the let's stay right there on the Kansas side. We're into it. It's your customary. It's hard to go with any less than 2 EKL games every week, and you got 2 of them this week. Miege at Blue Valley Southwest. You think the Timberwolves can hang in that one? Can give them a game?
I think so. Huh? I think so. And Miege had a nice win last week over Blue Valley North. Miege looked like Miege. I mean, that was kind of the way they played. But I think Blue Valley Southwest is riding high coming into this game. And I mean, if I was picking it right now, I'd probably still pick Miege, but I don't think it's an automatic pick. And I think there's some motivation there for Southwest to kind of knock off the Catholic schools when they get a chance to play them. So I think it'll be a good game. I think there'll be a lot of offense in it. And I think whoever can get some stops is going to get the win there. Yeah.
Blue Valley Northwest goes to Aquinas. In my mind, these are 2 of the 3 teams, along with Miege, you would consider maybe in that top tier of contenders in the EKL.
Yeah, and I think, it was kind of weird because I think a lot of people were sleeping on Blue Valley Northwest. And then, they came out and beat a pretty solid St. James team and look good doing it. They're tough. They're physical. They're big. They've got great size. It's a Clint Ryder team. They're going to run the ball. They're going to come at you and play good defense. And I think it'll be a great matchup with them, with Aquinas, with a veteran Aquinas team that brings everybody back and just got done beating a tough physical team from the Blue Valley team. So I think that the Aquinas is, primed and ready for that effort. And I think that, the Northwest will be in a good spot too.
Yeah. And Northwest, I mean, they've got 2 junior Division I offensive linemen that play next to each other. Or I think it might be next year. It might be opposite. But then when you have Gavin Hoffman putting a hand on the ground, you have 3 guys right there in a row of like 4 or 5 dudes that are D1 guys. Hoffman, the tight end receiver, it's going to Iowa, and so there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of talent there. Clint Ryder told us, it's more about, they have like 4 or 5 Division I guys, but it's what are you going to do with those other 16, 17, 18 guys? Those guys got to be the ones that get you a state championship. They look pretty good in that area as well. And the last on the Kansas side, Shawnee Heights at Lansing. This is the Shawnee Heights team. When you look at teams on the east side that want to make a run at Mill Valley, they're in that group. They played them. It was in a monsoon last year, but they played Mill Valley the closest of any team in the playoffs before they got to Mays. And a team, I think they beat Piper 42-0 in.
That was really impressive. Piper's young, and they've got a lot of sophomores on that team that are playing. But 42-0 is 42-0, and Piper doesn't get beat 42-0. I mean, that just doesn't happen that often. Piper's usually, no matter who the coach has been, whether it's Radke or Brindle or Rick Pollard, that team doesn't get blown out like that. Now, Coach Black, who did an outstanding job for them last year in his second year, that score to me said Shawnee Heights has got something going on, and they've had years where they've been pretty good. I mean, it's Coach Swift's been there a long time, and he does a good job. And I think that this is one of those teams, like you said, that's kind of in the depth of Class 5 that you don't think about. Going to Lansing, who the second year under Coach Pollard, Lansing went to DeSoto, tough loss there, but I think Lansing is an improving team, and this is just a fun one to see kind of where both these teams are at as they go through this UKC conference schedule and get ready to kind of go. And it's positioning as those Class 5 standings, go out. We've got them on the side right now, but those positions are huge, whether you're, in that 8-9 or 4-5 or, on the road in the second game of the season, the postseason. You want to get that spot as high as you can.
Absolutely, you do. All right, over in Missouri here, you have Kearney at Smithville. It's a no-brainer. We've already kind of talked about that one a little bit.
No, that's going to be a good game, and I think Kearney bounced back pretty well. And Smithville's not used to giving up points, let alone losing games. They gave up a lot of points last week, and Kearney defensively did a good job last week against Fort Osage. So I think that they feel pretty good about that group right now. And really, the first week they only gave up 20 points to Platte County. So defensively, they're doing pretty well. It's the question is with their offense. I don't know if their quarterback is back yet, but Oots told me don't feel sad for Kearney. He goes, they're still really good, and they proved it last week against Fort Osage. And then Smithville, they pounded Raytown in week 1 and got in a shootout and lost a close one last week. So there's not a lot of love between these schools. You throw Platte County into that mix too. Those 3 schools don't like each other, and so this is always a tough game. And I know that Smithville hasn't lost that many games over the last few years, so the bounce back will be pretty good. And Kearney got them last year, so I think there's in a close game that came down to a field goal
regular season, but Smithville got them back.
Smithville got them back in the postseason, but yeah, so there's definitely on both sides of this a lot of want to get the win in this one.
We've got Platte County in Class 5, and the other are in Class 4. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Still learning my classes in Missouri. It takes me a while.
Yes, they move them around every year, so you got
to, League Summit North at Rockers. We've talked about that one. I mean, what do you say? It's 10-7 last year, right?
10-7 Liberty North. Yeah,
fair.
I think so, because I think both of them want to run the ball and play defense.
But it's hard to imagine what we've seen from Rockers the last 2 weeks, them scoring less than like 21 points.
Yeah, they've been pretty good offensively too, and they shut out Ray-Pec in week 1, and they held Blue Spring South to 10 points in week 2, and Liberty North gave up 27 to Lee Summit North, and we're driving at the end of that game for a chance to tie it, but then they only give up 7 to Liberty. So it's definitely going to be a pretty tough physical game. Of course, I say that, and it's probably gonna be like 48-47. It'll go crazy, kickoff returns, all kinds of stuff like that. But no, I think that's a great game for both these teams to kind of figure out, where they're at after 2 weeks. They've had successes. Now they try and validate those successes by playing for Liberty North, probably the second toughest team on their schedule, and for Rockers, the toughest team on their schedule so far.
Yeah. Oak Park, man, 2-0, and they looked impressive getting there. If there's any doubts about it, okay, is this Oak Park team for real? Right? Because they haven't had sustained success for a long time. It should be a race by now, right? This is one of the best teams in the city, it seems like.
Yeah, they played two teams that they should have beaten badly, and they beat them badly. So that's not, I mean, you know, some people go, well, who have they beaten? Well,
is this the last test then with Grain Valley? Because it's a team, it's 2-0 Grain Valley team. Well, they've been in close games, but they're 2-0 as well. And also,
I think it's a good test for them. And I, you know, Oak Park is, you know, they want to run the ball and be physical. And so this is for them. You know, they've still got, I think they've still got Fort Osage on their roster too. So that'll be
schedule. They have Fort Osage, got Platte County, Lee's Summit.
Platte County, yeah. So they've got still some pretty good games on their schedule, but this is a good test for them right out of the box. So it's you know, it's definitely for them a chance to just see where they're at. You know, I mean, just see where they're at, because Grain Valley can score. There's no doubt about that. They can get the ball up and down the field. Their defense has been scored on. So it'll be, yeah, they've given up some points. So it'll be, you know, I think it'll get up and down the field. Now, Grandview's a good team. So that was a good win. It was 21-21 with Grandview and Grain Valley. And then they kind of took off from there and outscored them 28-7 in the second half. So no, it's you know, for Oak Park, like I said, they've got Grain Valley this week. They play Truman. They should handle Truman. Then they got Platte County, Lee Summit. North Kansas City looks a little down this year. They close out with St. Joe Central and Fort Osage. St. Joe Central is a pretty solid team too. So they've got kind of, I don't want to say some breaks in there, but they've got a nice mix of, you know, very, very quality opponents. Then they got some ones who are, you know, maybe a little younger that they're building on. So Oak Park's got a good run here, but you know, they played Winnetonka and Ruskin and they blew them out, which is what they should do. I mean, so that's kind of what you can ask for at this point is are you doing what you know, are you beating teams that you're better than, you know, badly? And then when you play a good team like a Grain Valley, are you competing at that level? And, you know, last year, this was a close game, and, you know, it should be again. And, you know, Oak Park got them 14-10 last year. I mean, it was a low scoring defensive game. I don't think it's gonna be a low scoring defensive game this year. I think it's definitely, now Oak Park's defense has played well, so that might be the difference maker here, but no one's shown the ability to keep Grain Valley under 46 for the first 2 weeks. And they weren't playing bad teams, bad defensive teams. They were playing good defensive teams in Grandview and Fort Osage.
Yeah. Let's jump back over to Kansas here. Some other games this week. We haven't really hit on the Sunflower League, but I thought Lawrence and Lawrence Free State both had really good wins last week. Impressive wins too, against good Olathe teams in Olathe South and Olathe West. What'd you think about the Firebirds and the Lions last week?
I was very impressed with Free State. They came out and got up on West and just kept going. And really the same thing with Lawrence. And it's only the South team I think a lot of people think is going to be pretty good.
They're on the road, by the way. They were both
yes
in Olathe. One at, I believe,
CVAC and then ODAC.
One at ODAC. Yeah,
they played on Free State and West played on Thursday, and then Lawrence and Olathe South played on Friday. And no, good wins for them. You know, Gardner did what Gardner was going to do to Shawnee Mission East. That was expected. Mill Valley, easy win. You know,
we're just waiting in week 4. It's Gardner traveling to Mill Valley. Is that going to be number 1 in 5A taking on number 1 in 6A?
Pretty good chance. I think I don't know if anything's going to happen there. The other one I was really impressed with was Olathe North.
Agreed.
Yeah, they got up and down the field on Olathe East, and
well, that's a North team. You're like, okay, well, it's North, but it's one of those years where they're replacing a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
To come out and have that performance in the first week.
Yeah, TJ Porter with 4 touchdowns, only 60 yards, but he scored 4 touchdowns. But no, and the one thing, you know, one of the cool things I noticed about the game in the photos is, man, those stands were packed.
Yeah.
I mean, on the Olathe East side, and there was a lot of orange and blue out there. And it looked like 10, 15 years ago, Olathe East, Olathe North, which is a good thing.
I'll tell you, we at Mill Valley, they had the most people I've ever seen in a game. Now, I've been 10 years, whatever, maybe some of the 2015 attendances were there, and I was there. I wasn't paying attention or whatever, but The last 4 or 5 years, I mean, I don't know if I've seen a game more packed. And part of it had to do with COVID, right? And the year after COVID, still kind of the after effects of it. But everybody was back. Olathe Northwest packed the stands as well. There was hardly any gray bleacher in your sight when you looked on both sides. It was a fun night. So I wonder if that was the case just kind of around the metro areas. And it's a great night, a nice night to get out there. And week 1 in Kansas, people are jonesing for football.
Well, and I think you talk about Olathe Northwest. That was one of the fan bases that really blossomed last year. They had a lot of the student section was huge, very active. A lot of people going to games, and I think you see in the Olathe schools, which have been on the uptick, all of them, really have been on the uptick the last year or two. You see a lot of attendance there. You see Mill Valley, strong tradition there. The Shawnee Mission schools, the ones that have struggled, they're trying to get on the build up. Shawnee Mission North got an overtime, went over Shawnee Mission South. I thought that game would be close, and it was. So there's Shawnee Mission Northwest has been pretty good attendance wise, and I think you're right though. I think post COVID, people are wanting to get out and go to games, and it helps. It wasn't 115-degree heat index like it was the week before.
Like 90 or 92, but like
it was still warm,
like 75 after the weeks of Hadley.
Well, yeah, I joked with my wife. I was like, all we needed was a week of 120 heat index to make 95 and no humidity with a breeze feel pretty good. It wasn't that bad. So no, it's hopefully we're kind of getting into that mix. I've kind of spied ahead, and it's going to be I think in the 80s this week, and maybe in the 70s the next week. So
today, while we're recording this on Tuesday, it's going to be another burner today, but then it drops off pretty dramatically after that. So that'll be good. Get back into this fall weather. I'm ready for it.
Yep,
I'm ready for it. A couple other games. I'm just kind of looking at the schedule here, and games we might get to on KSHB 41. Games you might get to with PrepsKC as well. I look at Lincoln Prep and Pembroke Hill. A couple teams coming off of. Well, I guess Lincoln Prep got the win, but Pembroke Hill, a couple disappointing losses to start the season against some good teams. What do you make of that one?
I thought it was a big win by Lincoln Prep. I think they really
27-2. Scoregami right there. Have we ever had that score before?
I don't know. That's a good one. No, a big win for them. They really came out and played well. I think it goes to show how much improved Cameron is, that they kind of handled Lincoln Prep in week 1. Now it was the first week, new coach. And sometimes it doesn't go your way, but no, I thought Lincoln Prep kind of dominated that game and did a pretty good job. Pembroke Hill's struggling right now. They draw Pius in week 1, then they play Christ Prep, which is the homeschool group over in Kansas. They're not Keisha affiliated, but they've been known to have some players, and they, I think, have won the national homeschool championship a time or two.
They've seen a kid with KU, I think,
yes,
last year, like a quarterback. Like
they had an athlete who played in the All-Star game last year, and definitely they've got some players. So Pembroke Hill's struggling. There's no doubt. But this is a game that's probably a little bit more. It's not Pius. I mean, Pius is loaded, and they were kind of fighting the fight right off the bat, and they were kind of out of it. But this will be a good test for both schools to see what Coach Crosdale's really getting things going at Lincoln Prep, and see if Pembroke Hill can kind of figure out what they're doing offensively. They've had 1 touchdown in 2 games, so that's tough when you're not scoring. It's funny game. You don't score, you don't win. So it's one of those deals.
Awesome. All right, Dion, I look forward to whichever school sends you a hat this week.
I'm not asking any
alternative grunge band wants to send me a shirt this week.
You think 70s retro? They had the Regal Beagle last week, and
I'll keep it up. I have a lot of I don't know what you'd call them, sophomoric T-shirts that I'll wear on vacations a lot, and so I can break them out.
How many did your brother give you? I mean, that's probably
a lot of them. Yeah. Kind of a shared sense of humor there. But no, I got a lot of some Golden Girls shirts I can break out. I got like 4 of those. Let's go.
Golden Girls are always winners. That's always a great show. It comes on for anybody who has watched any Hallmark Channel movies. The Golden Girls is what comes on at 10 o'clock on the Hallmark Channel. In the movie.
Oh, it's okay. Good.
Yeah. So my wife watches a ton of those. Now, I will admit, during Christmas, I will watch some of those movies, and it's something that's if you've got a 13-year-old boy in the house, it's something you can have on, and if he's roaming through the room and not feel like you're have to explain anything. And yeah, pretty wholesome.
Dion, he's 13. He already knows everything. He's hiding what does it now. There's nothing you have to explain. Just let him watch our movies. He's already seen them.
That's the problem. We were talking about watching Three's Company last week, and I was over at my in-laws' house, and I was like, I totally grew up on that. I was like 7 years old watching Three's Company.
Yeah.
Love Boat, all of it. Anything was on.
You turned out fine. So yeah.
Well, jury might still be out on that one. We'll see.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. Any other thoughts?
No, I just think we're starting to get things. Somebody asked me, it's like, oh, it's your busy time. And I go, yeah, but you get about 3 weeks in and everything starts to roll. You're kind of like a football team. You get the routine down and
right. You gotta get the routine down. Yep.
No, it's been fun and definitely looking forward to this Friday and another great week.
Awesome. Sounds good. We'll do it again next week. For Dion, I'm Nick. We'll see you next time right here on Snap Tackle Pod.